Hello, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to our third video for the course hardware software installation. In the previous video, we discussed the different parts of the computer system and its function. At this point of time, we are going to discuss the safety and the tips and the process on how to assemble and disassemble the computer system. So this time we're going to talk about basic information, and then in the second part will be the actual demonstration of the activity. So assembly and disassembly of computer system. So we have here the learning objective. So you are expected to understand the process of assembling and disassembling the computer system. The second is identify the different parts and function of the computer system and install with proper observance of procedures. And next is relate the importance of safety guidelines in performing the installation. It is very vital that in everything we do, we need to inculcate and we need to instill in our minds and in our hearts the importance of safety in our endeavor. Okay? So it's not more on technical, it's not more on understanding only, but we need to apply it in ourselves, the safety in whatever we do, especially in dealing with computer system. So what is assembling a PC? So assembling a PC means connecting different components of a computer so that the user can use a PC or the computer. So that is assembling. Assembling meaning you are going to install. So the question is it safe to take part a computer or to take apart the computer parts? Okay, so that is the first question. Is it safe to remove some parts of the computer in the computer system? That's the question means. So the answer is yes, as long as you have the better knowledge in doing such and has experienced computer hardware installation and troubleshooting. So it is not really difficult or dangerous for as long as you have the knowledge and you have experience in doing such activity. So that is safe. So first thing first, in assembling or installation, performing installation, first thing is we need to neutralize static electricity. So how to do it? The easiest way is you can hold the metal body of a computer for a few seconds. Thus, you can use or you can neutralize your body's static electricity. So this quick tip, you need to practice and assemble and disassemble computer system. Okay, so before doing anything, before disassembling the computer, make sure that the cable connecting to the outlet is actually detached from the outlet. Okay, that is the first thing that you're going to do. Check the cable connected to the outlet because that might be the cause of accident. Next is, even if that is already detached to the outlet, make sure you have to neutralize the static electricity. By doing so, you are going to avoid damage on the internal part of the computer system. So you are going to touch the metal body for just a few seconds to discharge your static electricity. You have your charge, so we have our charge, so we need to discharge or we have to neutralize that in order to avoid electric shock to the different parts of the computer system. So how to assemble the CPUs? This is a step-by-step process. So the following are the steps to assemble the CPU. First thing is take an inventory. Okay, before you are going to remove everything inside the system unit, list down all of the components that are present. Make a list of that and then check on the status of that peripherals or components. Next is make space and time. Okay, make space and time. That will be discussed in the later part. Next is prepare your CPU case, then followed by install the motherboard, install the processor heatsink, install the RAM or the random access memory, install the SMPS or the switch mode power supply, the power supply itself, install the HDD or the hard disk drive, install CD DVD drive, that is if applicable. Connect expansion cards, install sys or rear cooling fan if applicable, bus cable connection, power cable connection, front panel connector connection. So these are what you are going to perform in the installation. So first, take an inventory. So before you start, take an inventory of your parts. Okay, make sure you have the following components and tools with you. So take an inventory, you have to list down everything that is found in your computer system. Okay, so tower case cabinet, the motherboard, the processor, heatsink, fan, SMPS, hard disk drive, DVD RAM, CMOS battery, and a screwdriver set. Then next is make space and time. So how to make space and time? So this is in relation to the 5S. No? 5S in the workplace. Building a PC takes place. You can use the dining room table to build your PC, or make sure you have plenty of working space and a few hours to proceed with minimal interruption. So performing an installation, assembling or disassembling needs space. You need to have a flat surface or a table that is enough for the different components. When you detach that, you have a specific place to put everything according to its usage and function. So make time. So just take time. Do not be in a hurry. Making it in a hurry would result to an accident. So you have to be very careful with that. Prepare your CPU cabinet. Okay? Now it's time to prepare the case. Remove the case cover from the CPU cabinet. So you are going to open the CPU or the system unit. Then you need to screw or check the screw brush standoff are perfectly placed or not. So if it is not in the proper position, in that case you need to position them accurately. Okay, standoff or the brass screw standoff, that is referring to the screw that is mounted to the case and that allocates enough space from your motherboard and the case. Okay, that is for the system unit to avoid grounds. Okay, because in the case of grounded surface, our motherboard and some components of the motherboard will be affected also due to the power surge, right? So install the motherboard. Remember, you always want to safeguard your components from potentially hazardous static electricity. So you need to secure the motherboard onto the PC case chassis and inspect carefully for any visible defects. Okay. Next, review the motherboard handbook. Make sure you're familiar with the motherboard layout. So of course, before doing the disassembling and assembling, you have to be familiar with the motherboard that you're working with, or else there might be a problem during the installation process. So check the layout of the socket on the motherboard and confirm that the ports on your motherboard's back panel match to the holes in cases input-output shield installed in your case. So you need to check the sockets of the board. Okay. Install the processor. Use the unlocking mechanism to open the CPU socket, which is usually a lever. Okay. Then carefully line up the pins and place the chips in its socket. It will fit only when oriented correctly, or an arrow missing pin on one corner of the chip will allow you or will show you how to line things up. So everything when you are going to install, do not apply force, but make sure you have to check the orientation. That is based on the pin guides. Alright? So there will be a proper orientation or guide for you in order for you to install the different components of the system. So in case it is inverted, do not apply force or it will cause damage. So you have to invert it again and then check whether the pin is matched to the slot or not. So if that match, then that's the time that you are going to fit in and plug in the component. So install the CPU heatsink. The CPU heatsink is actually the one that is trying to pull out the heat that is generated from the processor itself because of the heat, and during the process it will really generate heat from the processor. So the role of the heatsink or the CPU heatsink is to pull out the heat from the processor, and then that will be pushed going out to the system unit. That is to maintain the temperature that is needed in the processor. So attach the clip that holds the heatsink in place, keeping in mind that it may require a fair amount of force. Again, to follow instructions that came with the heatsink, they will show you how to fit in correctly. And the later part in my demonstration, I will show you on how are we going to detach or remove the heatsink from the motherboard. Install RAM memory. So unlock two tabs from both ends of the RAM slot. To install the RAM, insert them into the proper socket and push down firmly but evenly until the clips on both sides of the socket pop into place. So meaning the random access memory slot, there are two locks from the both ends. That is what you call the ejector tab. Hello guys, good afternoon. Welcome to our third video. This is in relation to assembling and disassembling of the computer system. So this afternoon I'm going to demonstrate to you how are we going to assemble or disassemble and assemble the computer system to make it functional with the observance of the safety guidelines, which is the OHS in our workplace. So we will be dismantling the system unit, at the same time identifying the different parts in the internal parts of the system. That is for us to be familiar with the basic and the common computer parts that function as the processing of the data in our computer system. So first thing first, we need to have a screwdriver. We need to have a brush for cleaning. Next, we need to have ball pen and the last is we need to have a piece of bond paper that is for us to list down all of the parts that are found in the computer system. But guys, because it is very important to have an inventory that is in order for us to check whether the different parts that we detach from the system unit was actually installed back in its proper position and location, because in the absence of one, there might be a problem with the functions of your computer system. So first thing is we need to touch the system case that is to discharge our electricity, electrostatic discharge. So that is to avoid electric shock within the different parts of the system unit, because we as a person have a charge already. So by the time that we touch this, we need to discharge our charge first. So now let's open the system unit. So this is our system unit, the side, this is the front, okay. These are the different ports, the USB, the power, the reset button. We have the DVD here. And then in the rear panel, we have here the power supply, the power slot for our power cable. This is the fan that will exhaust the heat that is coming, that is generated inside. We have here the different ports. We have here the different bays. Okay, so it's now going to open. So just use the screwdriver and then unscrew this nut and then place it in a proper place. Make sure that as we discussed in our previous video, that we need to observe the 5S. Arrange everything in our work area. That is to avoid accident. Okay, so when we open this case, just simply slide this backward, right? And then we need to detach this. This is a connector to our power supply that is to produce, or that is to supply power to the fan. This is the fan of the cover. The purpose of this fan is to exhaust, or to let the heat that is generated inside to be pulled out in order to maintain the temperature of the system. Next step, because our purpose here is we're going to dismantle first and then reinstall the different parts. So while dismantling, before we're going to dismantle, we need to take a list of all of the parts in here. So we have here, okay, this one is our power supply. The purpose of the power supply is to supply power to the board and to the different parts of the computer system. Alright, so it actually regulates the supply voltages in the different parts, because it is not the supply that is being supplied, or the power that is being supplied to the different parts is not actually 220 volts. Now it is regulated into 5 volts and several voltage that is depending on the need of the different components. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to remove the different cables first. Okay, so this one is our, have you seen this? Okay, this is our hard drive or the hard disk. So first we are going to remove our hard disk. Okay, so what we're going to do is remove or pull the SATA cable. SATA stands for serial ATA, Advanced Technology Attachment, or Serial Advanced Technology Attachment. This is a cable where you can connect the hard disk on the other end, and the other end will be connected to the motherboard. That is for the purpose of transporting the data from and to. Alright, this is what you call one of the example of bus, BUS. Buses where data is passing from one place to another. That is SATA cable, Serial Advanced Technology Attachment. So we're going to place it here. Then another one in the power supply of the hard disk. Okay, this one. So this is the power supply. So we need to remove this one. So just pull this one. Alright. So this is now the SATA power cable, alright, which is connected to this power supply. So we already detached the hard drive or the hard disk. By the way, hard disk is a secondary storage media which stores our files, our operating system that is installed in our computer. Okay, so I remove the screws. There are 2 screws, or there are 3, but then 2 only for the drive base that will fit. So I remove the screw here and then in here. So that is why we got already our hard disk. So this is our hard disk. So this is the SATA port. This is where we're going to connect the other end of this cable, like this. So you cannot install this, or you cannot attach this if in case this will be inverted. So what we're going to do is just change the orientation, so like this. Alright, and then when you're going to pull this one, just simply, could you see the metal, just simply press it down, and then pull downward. Alright, that is how you're going to remove. This serves as the lock of the port. Okay, so like that. And then the other end is the SATA power cable. So that will be attached beside the SATA cable for the data, and this is for the power. This power cable will have to let the motor drive. So because when we're going to search file, when we're going to turn on the computer, this hard disk has a motor that will rotate and look for the file that is needed by the computer system to process, right? So we're going to place this one in here. Next that we're going to remove is the power from the DVD drive. Okay, this is our DVD drive. Alright, so we remove it already. Okay, so to remove the DVD here, just simply screw or unscrew these 2 screws here. Okay, then so after removing the screws, then there's a time that you're going to pull this drive, push it forward, and then in the front side, then this is our DVD drive, then you're going to pull it outside. Okay, you cannot remove this drive by pulling it inside because this will be there will be a hindrance in here, the power supply. So we already successfully removed the DVD drive. This is the DVD drive which drives the DVDs, right? So let's say for example you're going to insert DVDs inside, then this will be the one that drives the DVD. So this is DVD drive. Okay, next is we are going to remove the ATX power supply of the motherboard. Okay, this one. Okay, so what you're going to do is just simply we have here this one. This serves as the lock. So what you're going to do is just simply push this, and then before you're going to pull the pin or this cable. Next is we have to remove this cable. This cable is supplying power to the processor, right? Supplying power to the processor, that is for the processor to work properly. So in the absence of this, your computer will not function. Okay, so we're going to remove this one again. By removing that, just simply press the lock and then pull outside. Alright, so this is a 4-pin power cable that supplies power to the motherboard or to our CPU or the brain of the computer. This one is the ATX power supply that supplies power to our main board. Okay. So we remove already the different cables. We have here cables in the lower part. In the lower part, we have still cables here. Okay. This white one, this is a cable for audio. Okay. Have you remember that when you turn on the computer, your computer will have 2 bit. Okay. This is the one that is supplying a beep sound. So this is the audio. Then these are the wires that is intended for the front side bus. This one, the power button, the reset button, the hard disk, and then the power lead. Okay, hard disk lead and then the power lead. So these are the 4 wires that is supplying power to the front side, which is this one. Okay, that is supplying power for the reset button, for the power button, for the LEDs here. LEDs for the hard disk and then the power. So this is the cables intended for that particular connection to the motherboard. So what we're going to do is just simply we are going to remove this one. Okay, then yellow white. Okay, so it is important. Reset hard disk. Okay, it is important that you should label this if you are new to the installation of the computer hardware system. So you need to label this one. That is the purpose of having your paper and your ball pen here, because you are going to draw, or you are going to label that by getting the different colors. Okay, yellow, white, white, blue, red, white, and green, white. What is that for? So as I've said, this is for power switch. When you are going to turn on the power, then it will be the one connecting to the motherboard. Reset switch is a cable that is connected to the reset button, and then connected also to the motherboard. Hard disk lead, this is for the hard disk, that it is an indication that your hard disk is functional. And this one is for your power lead. Okay, when you turn on the computer, you could see red button or red LED in front. That means your computer is turning on. So this is now our front side bus connector. Again, this is for audio, HD audio. This is for USB connector, for our front side connector for USB. Okay, so if you want your computer will not detect USB in front, then you're just to remove this cable USB. So there is a label. Okay, so we already removed this power supply cables connecting to the motherboard. So there are no cables except for this one that is having supply to our heatsink. Okay, so next step is we're going to remove our power supply. So to remove the power supply, simply we have four screws here. So what you're going to do is just simply unscrew this screw using the screwdriver. Okay, you have to unscrew. You have to be very careful with this, because when you are going to remove the screw, then the power supply will be falling inside, and then some of the parts of the motherboard will be damaged. So we have to be very careful with this. Okay, so first is you're going to hold this one. Okay, hold. So in everything that when you're going to disassemble and assemble the computer, you need to instill in your minds the safety. So how to perform safety is, arrange everything and then take extra careful. Okay, so we remove already our cables. Okay, so we remove already the power supply. Then next is we have the main board left in our system unit. So how are we going to remove this? We just have to unscrew the different screws here in our motherboard. So first thing, because we have a video card here, okay, so first thing that we're going to do is we have to remove our video card first. Okay, remove the screw here. the screw that is protecting the video card. So this is our video card. Okay. So right. So the next thing that we're going to do is we have to remove our video card. So this is our video card. Okay. So this plug and play card is actually installed in our motherboard if we want to upgrade our computer in terms of graphics. Okay, if you want your computer for gaming, then you need to have this one. Okay, or in case that your onboard video card is damaged, then you need to buy this card in order for you to solve the problem. Purpose of this is to allow your monitor to display a better graphics. So this is our video card. Alright, so this one is our memory. Okay, memory that is temporarily storing the data while the computer is on. So to remove the memory, we have ejector tabs here. This one, just press it down, press down, and then in here press it also up. Okay, then pull the memory. So this is our memory. Okay, the memory or the random access memory that is having different pins connected to the board. Okay, this is our pin that is directly connected to the board. This is a 4 GB random access memory. So have you noticed that there is a space here? Okay, so you won't be confused, you will not be confused if ever when you are going to install this memory, because the orientation will not be inverted. So in case when you plug this memory, then it will not fit to your board, then you are going to invert it again, on the opposite side, right? Or else if it is not really fitting to the slot, then that is not compatible for your motherboard. So this is our random access memory. So to remove this motherboard, you are going to unscrew these screws. There are a lot of screws here that is trying to fix or hold the motherboard in its proper place. Okay, that is the purpose of the screw. That is to protect the motherboard from moving. Motherboard. Okay, so after removing this, so when you remove the motherboard, make sure that everything or all of the screws are actually removed. Okay, so when it is removed, then you're going to pull this out, and this is our main board. Okay, this is our main board, which is composed of several slots. Okay, this is the rear side, or the inner side of the motherboard. Okay, this is the rear panel, which is for the UF for the PS2 mouse and keyboard. This is for the parallel port. This is for the network port, the USB ports. We have the graphics port, then the audio and the microphone ports. Alright, so this is our board. This slot is the ATX power supply slot. These are SATA ports, serial advanced technology attachment, where you are going to connect your DVDs, you connect your hard disk. If you want to have your hard disk 2 or more hard disks, then you can provide, or you can have that by connecting the SATA cables here. This is your memory slot. Okay, this is the memory slot for the random access memory. When you wanted to upgrade your computer by adding memory, then you can have two slots here. The one is the one that is being installed, and this is for the AGP port, graphics port. Then this is the PCI slots, peripheral component interconnect. Okay, peripheral component interconnect, that you can connect several peripherals if you wanted to. Okay, so this one is the heatsink. Inside the heatsink is the power processor. Alright, so how are we going to remove this heatsink? So we have here the nuts here. There are 4 nuts or locks that prevent this heatsink to move. So how are we going to remove this? We have plastic here that lock. That is an indication that it is locked because of this one. So we are going to remove this one by pushing it. We have to push this one and then counterclockwise. Push and counterclockwise. Okay, push, counterclockwise, push and counterclockwise. Okay, so after pushing and then turn it counterclockwise, it is loosening the screw or the lock. Then what you're going to do is just simply pull this one, pull, okay, then pull this one. So this is the cable that is supplying power to the fan. That is for the fan to turn on. Alright, so the purpose of having this heatsink is to let the heat generated by the processor while it is being processing to push it outside, and then the power supply and the fan and the cover that is presented before will help you, or it will help the computer system to pull the heat and then push it outside the environment of the system unit. Okay, so we're going to remove this. Okay, and then alright, that's it. So that is how we're going to, okay, you should have to be very careful by detaching the heatsink, because heatsink, after the heatsink is the processor. Okay, this is our processor. So if you are not very familiar on how to disassemble, so I would advise that you are not going to remove the heatsink, or you are not going to remove this processor, because it is very sensitive. No? Processor, remember that the processor is the brain of the computer. So if you are going to detach that without prior knowledge, then there might be a tendency that this processor will be damaged. So if in case that the brain will be damaged, then everything in the board will be also affected. All right, so if you are not familiar, and if you are not actually having an experience in computer installation and troubleshooting, so do not just simply remove the heatsink and then the processor. But in this case, for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to show you how are we going to remove the processor, the heatsink, and remove everything in the computer system. Alright, so this is our processor. Okay, so this is our lock. Okay, so the lock here that prevents the processor to move. So how are we going to remove this is we're going to push this downward. Okay, push this downward and then pull it sideward. Then that's the time that the lock will be removed. Okay, so then you push that backward to open the processor. So this is our now processor. This is the actual processor that we have. So to remove this, you are going to hold the processor like this. Okay, so mind you that the processor is very sensitive, so never touch this side of the processor. Okay, never touch this one, because these are what you call different pins, no? The pins that is connecting our motherboard, and then this one, this small chip, is responsible for processing of data, all instruction that we feed to the computer system million times per second. So this is very dangerous, this is very powerful, but then it is prone to damage if it will be mishandled. Okay, so this is our processor. Remember, processor, you're not going to touch the pin inside, right? So you have to hold this at the edge of the processor. So this one, there is a thermal paste placed in this area that is to help maintain the temperature of the processor. Okay, so we're going to return this one, the processor, we have to return. So we are now done with the disassembling. So this time we're going to assemble our computer system. So first thing first, we have to remove, or we have to install back the processor. So we have here the guide. Okay, this one. So we have to install it again. Alright, then firmly adjust that it fits to the slot of the processor, and then your processor itself, it fits to the slot. Then after that, return this lock. Okay, return this lock, and then we have to push this downward, push it downward, and then insert it in this particular area to firmly lock the processor. Alright, so by the way, this is our CMOS battery slot. Okay, there is a battery in here that stores the time and the configuration. So let's return the heatsink. This is the heatsink, the aluminum one, and then this is the fan for the heatsink that helps to pull out the heat generated in the processor going outside to maintain the temperature. So again, to install the heatsink here, To return the heatsink, make sure that it is pulled out, the black one, this one. So meaning this is an indication that the lock is not yet pushed to perform its function to lock. Alright, so we are going to have the orientation of this. Okay, so this is how we're going to install. Okay, see to it that you have to push it and make sure that the white plastic will be properly inserted to the hole of the motherboard. Okay, so we have here already the plastics. Okay, but then the black plastic is not yet fitted. Then what we're going to do is simply we have to push this. Just a while ago we have, when we remove this heatsink, push, then turn it clockwise, counterclockwise. So this time, in order to lock, push this one and then turn it clockwise. Push, clockwise, clockwise, like that. Push and then clockwise again. Then push, then clockwise, and then push it and then clockwise. And that's the time when you are going to check the heatsink is firmly locked in the motherboard. So have you noticed that the black one here is actually in the level of the plastic white? So that is an indication that the heatsink is properly locked in your motherboard. So next step is we are going to return the motherboard. Okay, return the motherboard. The orientation is, this is in the rear panel. So we are going to have this like this. By the way, okay, this one are the spacers that provide space, or these are what you call standoff from the motherboard, that provides space from the motherboard and then the case, because this is metal and your board is also prone to grounds, okay, electrostatic reactions. So that's why there is a standoff that is to provide space from our metal case and to our motherboard. Alright, and that is also providing a way for us to lock our, or to screw our board in the system unit. So we are going to fit in now our motherboard. Okay, so after that, okay, fit into so by the way guys, never apply too much force when you are installing your motherboard and different parts of your computer system, in order to avoid damage also of the board. No? Remember that our board is very sensitive. Okay, so just plug your screws in your board here. Okay. If possible, use screwdriver that is magnetic so that your screws will not easily fall inside your system case, and then it will be difficult for you to locate in case. So use magnetic screwdrivers. Okay. And the last one is in here. Okay. So next step is we are going to mount now our power supply. So to mount our power supply, you are going to have it. Okay. So we have here our screws. Again, as I've said, when you are going to mount the different parts of the system unit, do not apply too much force in order for you to avoid damage of the parts. Okay. Then we have here there are already 4 screws that is already mounted to the power supply. So that's the time that you're going to tighten the screws. Okay. Alright. So the screw is already mounted to our power supply. Next is we are going to install our firewires. Okay. We need to connect cables. Alright, so again, these are the cables that is intended for the power, intended for the reset, intended for the hard disk, intended for the leads. Alright, so we are going to have the power first, power, then reset. Okay, power, reset button. Okay, then power button. Then the other one is the hard disk lead. Okay. And the other one is the power lead. Okay. So we're done connecting the front side connectors of cables to our motherboard. With this one, the 4 pins here is connecting the power to our processor. Okay, the 4 pins. This uh, 24 pins or 26 pins power ATX connector will be connected to the motherboard. That is to produce power to the whole motherboard. So that is actually located in here. Okay, in here. So we are going to plug it like this and then push it. Then the USB here is actually connected in here. USB. And then this one is for the audio. Just always remember that the orientation will not be inverted. In case the pin doesn't match to the slot that you are trying to insert, that is an indication that it is not for the slot that you are trying to insert. Alright, so never apply force because pins here are actually sensitive. It might be damaged in case you will apply force to it. So you have to be very careful with that. Okay, next is we need to have this memory. Okay, again, when you wanted to upgrade your memory, since this is 4 GB, you can buy another 4 GB to be added in this slot. Since there are 2 slots for the RAM, then you can buy one to upgrade your computer system, right? So to install that one, you need to have this and then insert it. Okay, again, the orientation, the opening here should be matched to the pins or the opening in your slot for the RAM. So after that, just press it gently and then make sure that the ejector tab is locking your memory. So that is to firmly install in your computer system. Alright, next is we are going to install our hard disk. Hard disk is where we are going to install our applications, Microsoft Office, operating system, programming languages, and other including our files you're going to install or you're going to store it in here. This is our storage or the secondary storage or the hard disk drive. Okay, so how to install it? You're going to insert it in this area. This, by the way, this area is actually what you call drive base. Okay, drive base, B-A-Y, by, or that is drive bay, meaning this is where you are going to install or mount your drives, your DVD drives, your CD drive, your flash disk drives, your hard disk. Okay, hard disk can be installed in here. 2 to 4 hard disks can cater this motherboard because we have 4 slots for the SATA. Alright, so we're going to install this one and then like this. The orientation is the opening here, the slots here is facing inside the motherboard. Alright, so insert it gently. Okay, gently, and then after that mount the screws. mount the screws, and then after it, what's next? It needs data or the bus, which is the serial advanced technology attachment cable or the SATA cable, that is you're going to connect that to your hard disk and then connect the other end to your motherboard. Okay, motherboard, then we need to have the power supply to give power to your hard disk. So don't forget, in the absence of this power connector or the SATA connector to your hard disk, then when you turn on the computer, there will be no operating system that will be loaded to your system, because our operating system resides in our hard disk. So don't forget, check everything. So we need to install it, we need to mount everything. So after installing, by the way, we still have one. This is our graphics or video card. So we're going to install this. This is the pin that is attached to the motherboard. This is the rear panel that is connecting the VGA cable that is connecting to our monitor. This is HDMI. This is another port that you can use to display output to the monitor or to the projector. So we're going to mount this one. Okay, gentle. Let's be gentle. Okay. Then press gently. We need to screw the need to screw our next is we have here our DVD drive. So insert our DVD drive here and mount the screw. Okay, we need to mount the screw of our DVD. And if we have SATA cable, you have to connect the other end here in our DVD drive, and then connect that to our motherboard on the other side. Same with power. Okay, the last one is for so I guess everything is properly installed. We have here in the front side, this is our front side of the system unit. This is our power button, which is where we're trying to connect the cable or the wire there inside the motherboard. We have the USB. We have already attached also the cable for USB. This is our reset button. This is our jacks for the microphone and the headset or the headphone. This is for the LEDs that we are trying to connect the cable there. we have here the DVD, right? This is the side, this is our motherboard, the connectors, the DVD drive, the power supply, the graphics card or the video card, our memory here, our heatsink. Inside is the CPU. This is our motherboard, the hard disk installed. Okay, this is the rear panel. This is the slot for the power cable that is attached to the voltage regulator. This is our PS2 keyboard and mouse. This is our serial or the parallel port. This is our graphics port. This is our USB. This is for RJ45 connector for networking. These are the jacks for our line in and out. Okay, this is our graphics card. Okay, so I guess everything is properly demonstrated, from assembling and disassembling, or disassembling to assembling the computer system. So I guess, guys, I hope that by doing the demonstration you get something, you understand something on the process of assembling and disassembling of the computer system. Mind you that in everything we do, we need to inculcate safety, and we need to observe safety procedures, especially in dealing with the computer system, because our computer system is also connecting power or electricity that might cause damage to us, damage to the computer system if mishandled. So we need to be very careful, observe the 5S in our workplace, which is being emphasized in our first and the second video, that when we do something, when we perform our activity dealing with electronic devices, please be very careful with it, because that might result to an accident. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you learned something, and in the near future we could let you experience the actual performing of this task soon. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.